It was Christmas Eve in New York City, and snow fell in soft, silent sheets, covering the streets like a white blanket of forgotten dreams. From the 34th floor of a glass tower, Alexander Reed, CEO of Reed Enterprises, looked down at the glowing city, the laughter, the light, the life, everything he had, once upon a time, believed he would have forever. But tonight, like every Christmas for the past 8 years, he was alone. He sat in his penthouse, the sound of a lonely clock echoing through the quiet. A golden tree stood near the window, decorated to perfection, but untouched by love, by memory, by warmth. Each ornament was placed by a hired decorator, not by a child's tiny hands. No laughter, no joy, only the ticking clock and the ache of silence. 8 years ago, Alexander had lost his wife, an unborn child, in a car accident on Christmas Eve. He had buried not just them, but also the man he once was. Since then, he drowned himself in work, building an empire, buying companies, collecting awards. But success, he learned, doesn't fill the emptiness of a home without laughter. The knock that changed everything. Just as the clock struck 9, there was a knock on the door. It startled him. Nobody ever visited him on Christmas. He opened it to find a young woman standing in the snow, holding the hand of a little girl bundled in a pink coat. The woman's eyes were filled with apology and exhaustion. "I am so sorry," she said quickly. "Our car broke down near the main road. My phone died and your building was the only one with lights on. We just need to make a call. I didn't mean to intrude." Alexander hesitated. Years of isolation had made him guarded, but something about the child, her wide, curious eyes, and the way she held a small, crumpled teddy bear, softened him. He nodded silently. "Come in." The warmth of the penthouse embraced them. The little girl gasped at the tall Christmas tree. "It's so shiny," she whispered. "Did Santa bring it?" Alexander's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Not exactly." The woman introduced herself as Emily Carter, and her daughter was Sophie, 5 years old. They were on their way to visit Emily's mother for Christmas, but the storm had turned the highway into a trap of ice. A night of forgotten feelings. Alexander offered them cocoa. The little girl sat on the couch, legs dangling, humming softly while sipping from the cup with both hands. Emily, meanwhile, watched him curiously. There was something familiar about his eyes, deep, kind once, but now buried under layers of grief. "You live here alone?" she asked gently. He nodded, "Yes, for years now." The conversation faded into quiet. Then Sophie broke it by handing him a small cookie shaped like a star. "Mommy and I baked these to give to people who might be lonely," she said innocently. "You looked lonely." Alexander froze, his throat tightening. The cookie was slightly burnt on one side, but it was the most beautiful thing he had seen in years. He took it. "Thank you, Sophie. I was lonely." Emily's eyes softened. In that moment, she saw something flicker inside the man, a spark of life that had been missing. The story behind the smile. As the night deepened, the storm raged outside, trapping them in. So they talked about life, loss, and faith. Emily told him how she had been raising Sophie alone after her husband left. She worked double shifts at a diner to make ends meet. Sometimes, she said, Christmas wasn't about gifts, it was about hope. Alexander listened quietly. Then, for the first time in years, he spoke of his wife, Anna, how she used to bake cinnamon rolls on Christmas morning, and how her laughter used to echo through every corner of this home. By midnight, the tree didn't look so lifeless anymore. The air felt warmer, not because of the fireplace, but because, for the first time, it felt like Christmas. The morning after. The storm cleared by dawn. Emily thanked him for his kindness and prepared to leave. Sophie waved her teddy bear goodbye. "Merry Christmas, Mr. Alex." But as they walked out the door, something in him broke. He didn't want them to leave. "Wait," he called out. "At least let me drive you. The roads will still be icy." On the drive, Emily looked out the window and said softly, "You know, maybe your wife sent us. Maybe she didn't want you to be alone tonight." Alexander didn't reply, but his grip on the wheel tightened. His heart, once frozen, began to thaw. A Christmas promise. Weeks passed, life returned to routine, but something was different. He couldn't stop thinking about Emily and Sophie. Their laughter had filled a void he didn't realize could still be filled. So one morning, he showed up at the diner where Emily worked. She froze, surprised to see the man who once seemed untouchable now standing in a place that smelled of coffee and pancakes. I was wondering, he said awkwardly, if you and Sophie would have dinner with me sometime. No business talk, just Christmas in January. Emily smiled, eyes glistening. We'd love that. A year later. Next Christmas, the same penthouse glowed again, but this time with laughter, the smell of cookies, and a child's giggle echoing through the halls. Emily sat beside Alexander by the fireplace, Sophie asleep in her lap. This is what Christmas should feel like, Emily whispered. Alexander looked around, the stockings, the messy wrapping paper, the half-eaten cookies, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. He kissed Emily's forehead and whispered, "Thank you for knocking on my door." She smiled, "No, Alexander, thank you for opening it." The message: Christmas isn't about perfection or presents. It's about presence, about opening the door of your heart when life gives you a second chance. Sometimes love doesn't come when you chase it. It comes quietly in a snowstorm, through a knock on the door, and the innocent eyes of a child who believes everyone deserves to smile again.